right now. To update you, I wanted to start off with something the council's aware of, and I wanted to mention it publicly because I have a feeling next council meeting this is going to come up. I have a strong feeling at the next council meeting this is going to come up, so I wanted to talk about it publicly for the first time, something that we talked about in executive session a couple weeks ago about a lawsuit that was filed against the city of Hammond by James Hill. Lawsuit was filed a few years back. We've been litigating this through ICORN and ICORN for the better part of the last 3 years. To give you an idea of who James Hill is, James Hill was accused by the Hammond Police Department in 1980 of rape, robbery, and unlawful deviant conduct. This was shortly after Officer Pusalik was murdered, and the Hammond Police Department was going out looking for people that were suspected in that crime. Mr. Hill got swept up in that. He was charged with a different crime, although I think the Hammond Police Department felt strongly that he was also part of Officer Pusalik's murder. This was a long time ago, 1980. I was 11 years old at the time. Little did I know in 1980 this was going to land on our desk. Mr. Hill was convicted by a Lake County jury in 1982 on all 3 counts of rape, robbery, and unlawful deviant conduct. He was sentenced to 35 years in prison. Mr. Hill served 17 and a half years in prison, split between Michigan City and Westville. He was ultimately released in 1998 after 17 and a half years in prison, once DNA evidence, which was available in the 1990s, cleared him of the rape. He went to jail for rape, robbery, and unlawful deviant conduct. Obviously, if DNA clears him on the rape, he probably shouldn't have done 17 and a half years. He gets out of Lake County, he gets out of the federal prison system, files a lawsuit against the city of Hammond. Because when we take over, we've been litigating this case now for a number of years. We spent a lot of money litigating this case. The case went to trial about 6 months ago. I'm sure you're all aware. We talked about it at the time. There was a $25 million verdict entered against the city of Hammond in that trial. That's a massive verdict, obviously concerning. I do feel that the city has some liability. I think everybody was shocked at the amount of that verdict. Obviously, Mr. Hill went to prison for 17 and a half years. Obviously, that's worth a lot. The jury in that case felt it was worth $25 million. We appealed. When you appeal, the $25 million doesn't go away. It starts collecting interest. It collected close to $1 million in interest while we were on appeal. So the clock is ticking while we file our appeal. We felt strongly on our appeal. We thought it was a great appeal. It was similar to an appeal we filed in another case, very similar to this. It went down in the same time frame a few years back called the Larry Mays case. We felt strongly that we were going to be successful in our appeal to the 7th Circuit, which is one step below the U.S. Supreme Court. They agreed to hear our case. We were litigating a case when we were mandated to go through a mediation. We went through one mediation that was not mandatory, it was voluntary, and we got a little bit closer, but not that close. 7th Circuit mandated that we go to mediation again. Obviously, the purpose of mediation is to try to resolve disputes so that you don't have to go forward with litigation or an appeal in this case. At that mediation, we reached a verbal agreement for $9 million. So I want to talk to you a little bit about that. We reached a settlement in principle with Mr. James Hill and his attorneys in regard to both of his lawsuits against the city of Hammond and Detective Michael Solon. Michael Solon was also held liable individually and punitively. He had punitive damage award of over $500,000. Mike Solon himself was personally responsible for that. This lawsuit, if it does become finalized, which I anticipate it will become finalized, once signatures are attached to the settlement document, the case will be settled, which means that I'll be coming to you with bond paperwork for a $9 million bond. It's a judgment bond, which is paid off the top, which is the only good news in this, but this is a liability that we're going to have from the city of Hammond. I want to remind the council that I was 11 years old when this happened, so you can do your own math on how old you were. This is nobody's fault that's currently a Hammond police officer. This is nobody's fault that's an elected official for the city of Hammond. This is liability that we had going back to 1980. So we do have an agreement in principle, but as everybody knows, until we sign on the dotted line, we don't have an agreement in writing. But I I feel strongly that this is going to settle, that it's going to ultimately settle for $9 million, and then I'm going to be coming to you at the next council meeting with that paperwork. So before I get on with the rest of my report, I did talk to the council. For the public that's watching this, we are allowed to meet in executive session, and we did meet in executive session where I indicated to the council I thought there was going to be a settlement. There is a settlement. I'm not sure if you all have any questions. I don't know the details on how much it's going to cost us annually. We're trying to stretch the payments out as long as possible. We'll have more of those details in the coming weeks. This does put this case to rest once and for all. This takes care of all attorney fees, all interest, everything. It was a $25 million verdict with interest, and we got it settled for $9 million. I think it was a good case. I think that was a really good number. It sucks, but I walked away not happy, and they definitely walked away not happy. The plaintiffs walked away not happy. They wanted more. They thought they were going to get closer to $25 million. I walked away not thrilled because last time I had a case like this, it cost us $4.5 million, so this cost us more. Usually when everybody walks away a little upset, those are the best deals. That's what I've learned in my years of experience as your mayor. So I don't know if you have any questions about this. I just thought it was a proper time to talk about it publicly. We've already talked about it privately, so I don't want anybody out there thinking if there's no questions asked, that the council doesn't have interest in this. We've already had this discussion privately in executive session. Nothing? Okay.